Hey folks, so today I want to get a, so first of all, this is probably going to be pretty short, at least I would like it to be short. And we'll pick up where we left off yesterday, which is I had just implemented some, what I'm calling dummy handlers. Basically, they just return not implemented and they do nothing. They're just really there to get, to make sure that the code is going in the right place and that I have all the types correctly. So I'm going to commit that. I added this line, this dependency in gRPC Haskell, which is, I think, as expected. Where do I can mark this as reviewed, right? Or maybe not. At any rate, here's the actual implementation. I did notice something, which is that these metadata, which is how I had it yesterday, cause a problem because you can't have zero length metadata. You can have empty metadata, which is what I changed delete article response to. So let's just verify that. And the way I noticed it is I compiled gRPC CLI, which is this way of sending gRPC requests to to essentially an arbitrary gRPC server. I'm sure that there are many, maybe it's kind of like curl, but I'm sure there are many like API playgrounds that allow you to do this sort of thing. So if I have the gRPC CLI command correctly, I'm going to call, so gRPC CLI, I'm building with Bazel and running it with Bazel, and I'm calling on localhost 50051, which is where the gRPC Haskell default port is. And then I'll call the delete article RPC with just the sending the article ID 9. No particular reason for those defaults, just what I'm doing. And I'm getting, and if I do that, then I'm connecting. It looks like I'm connecting correctly, and I'm getting the error message canceled. And I think if I jump over here to the output of the of actually running the server, I get this error message printed out. It says metadata keys cannot be zero length. So what I'm going to do is just change all of these to the empty list. Oops. And then if I rerun the server, the delete call should succeed. Yeah, so I'm getting code 12, which is unimplemented. And if you're not sure that you believe me, you can try changing the status unimplemented to status OK, and then we should get status OK after we restart the server. Yeah, okay, so RPC succeeded with OK status. Okay, so I can't have that metadata, but that's fine. Unimplemented, I hope that that's spelled correctly, just to make sure we'll rerun the server. And I'm pretty sure this is the last commit that I did. So I'll just do git commit amend. What is it? No edit? No dash edit? Okay. Then I'll repush the Garrett change. And so if I go, ooh, change 69. Nice. If I like switch the, there should be a new patch set. Maybe I have to refresh. There we go, patch set 2. And all of this should look good, except I seem to have missed these metadatas. I am not sure how. Did I not save properly? No changes need to be saved. Oh, you know what? I didn't add it to the, I didn't stage it, I think is what I didn't do. Let's do that again. And so now I should have a third patch set. Is it up here? And now I have the empty metadatas. Everything is unimplemented. Looks good. And then the message is just, these are the dummy handlers we're returning unimplemented. So I think I'd like to get in the habit of when I stop at a good stopping point, starting the next stream or the next day on reviewing the code that I did before, so that I get in the habit of looking back at my own code. Having a little bit of distance helps a lot. Okay, so now that I have these handlers, I do want to implement them, but I am reluctant to really do a lot of work implementing until I have some sort of feedback loop, feedback cycle, where I can get a better sense that the thing that I'm implementing is the thing I actually want. And there are two ways I thought of doing that. One is just having some sort of integration test where I start up the gRPC service and I run and I use like a Haskell integration testing suite to make calls to it and verify that the return values are the ones I want. And that is a great idea. However, I don't know enough about Haskell testing suites to know I think I have to, I'll put it this way. I think I have to do a little bit more research before I believe that I can do that fluidly. Because what I've seen, I think in some of the Haskell testing, the Haskell projects I've seen, is that some of the integration tests are a little bit hairy. And so I want to get to know a testing suite a bit more, at least read their docs, maybe look at a few examples of find and then look at examples of projects that I think do integration testing really well. And I don't have time to do all that today. But another thing I can do for a feedback loop is just use gRPC CLI, the command line thing I just showed. That's not so bad, but it's also not so great because the issue with that is that sorry, I'm just clicking on my stream to make sure I'm streaming. The issue with that is that the command line tool is extremely useful for verifying that things work, sending RPCs to services when you don't want to code up a client. But in my experience, mainly from using similar tools before at my real job, it's not great for having a tight feedback loop. And you can't really easily commit a gRPC CLI session to code in a replayable way, those sorts of things. So I thought that one alternative approach is to take more of a, what I think is more of an agile approach, which is that we've got like one slice of the app, which is the backend, maybe have a similarly dummy slice of the front end so that we have like a whole cross section of the app. And then we can hone the front end and the back end sort of at the same time. Now, the front end and the back end are going to be written in different languages. The back end is in Haskell, at least experimentally. We'll see how well it goes continuing to work in Haskell for the back end language. And then the front end I'm going to do in Flutter because I have to support, at least just in my own household, I have to support Android phones and iPhones. And Flutter seems like a reasonable way of doing that. And I've used it before. It seems okay. And I would rather not learn something like React Native, since personally I'm not so in love with JavaScript yet. Maybe you are. Maybe I will become in love with it later, but that's sort of where I am. So I did start just I ran Flutter Create somewhere, and I have Android Studio. So maybe what I'll do in the few minutes that I have is, first of all, commit the Flutter frontend app. I think it's in Lector frontend. And if things go nicely, I might be able to implement a gRPC client in Flutter in a few minutes. I'm not. I've done it before. I don't recall if it's a few minutes of work or if it's like a couple hours of work. but hopefully it's just a few minutes. Let's go to the, let's see, let's push this change. And I have a feeling that most of the stuff that's in this change is stuff I don't actually want to commit to source code. I'm not entirely sure. We have this git ignore. Okay. This seems probably well thought out. I could have sworn I could mark individual files as reviewed. But if I click next, will it show up as reviewed on the status page? Yeah, reviewed. Okay. So here's the .metadata file. This probably is important. Analysis options. This is like linting stuff. I guess this is all fine. There's another git ignore for the Android directory. A build.gradle. I'm just going to make sure that it's not. So like we've got this namespace com lector frontend. This should be fixed. I'll say fix namespace here and elsewhere. And then just I can remind myself. I like to add these flags to grep. I don't know if they're always necessary for the stuff I do, but I can just do a grep search for this. And I'm probably not going to do this right now, but I do want to mark this up a little bit. Source main Kotlin. I'm not sure if I need Kotlin stuff, but maybe you do. This is some schema stuff. I might need to add permissions, but that doesn't need to be done in the first go round. All of this other stuff looks relatively fine. We've got this main activity, Flutter activity. And how many more files do I have? Quite a few. So I'm going to do a lot of this offline. I'm not sure that I want the Windows front end. I don't know if there's a downside to having it. I guess maybe it's okay. I don't know how to test it. I don't know how to support it if it breaks. So I might just delete it, and I'll make a I'll make a note to delete it. Where's the best place to add a top level comment? Is it just in reply? And I assume that there's a, I just want this to be a draft. I think if I click send, this is really going to send. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, cut it, and have it down here. What's a good entry point file? Maybe main.cpp. And I'm going to have a similar note for iOS. Not for iOS, for macOS. And maybe there's a way to run Flutter Create without desktop apps. I don't know what the right entry point is for macOS. How about main menu? Let me look up Flutter Create. How to create a Flutter project. Only for Android and iOS, even if web support is enabled. Okay. And I can also call this. I'm not sure though if it really matters. Do you think it matters? I can edit the metadata file, delete unwanted platforms. What if I do Flutter create platform and web? Whoa. Oh, okay. Test Flutter. I think I needed to give it a name. So here we have Android, iOS, and web, but no Windows or Mac OS. And in fact, I'm just going to do that. I'll just remove front end and create. I'm going to call it lector underscore front end because Flutter's going to use the name to populate some stuff, but I'm just going to rename it front end because the lector is already in the name of the directory. So hopefully that is some useful stuff. We did it create a new, oh, created a new change. Oops. Whoa now. I don't want that. I want to check out this one. Let me do it from magix. I'm not sure exactly what I messed up, but I messed up the git command. Let's stage everything. Recent commit is this one. And hopefully this will update 70. There we go. And I still have my comments. But I don't think I should. Where's pet set? And somewhere, was it metadata? I want to know if my, oh, yeah, I think the, this will show me where comments is build that Gradle. I want to make sure this comment is preserved. Okay, so fix the namespace. All right, so this looks good for now. I'm not going to submit it, but I should at least verify that, things run. Which I don't even have an Android device installed. I think that's okay. But somewhere I should be able to run. Is it the play button? Launching. And while we're doing that, let's find how to download an Android device. Okay, so I don't have the Linux desktop configured. I don't even think I have the Chrome browser installed. Is it SDK Manager? I don't think it is, right? All right, at any rate, I'll figure out how to install an Android package. I think I can just install. Hey, look, I do have Chromium. Okay, so it works on web. If I push a button, does anything happen? No, that's not good. Flutter supports hot reload. So WebGL is not supported on my VM. Whatever. Okay. Device manager. This is what I want. So it's going to download this device. Let's see. I'm not sure why it doesn't work when I click on that button. Hopefully that's not caused by my having changed something, like the name of the folder. But while this is downloading, we can look up how to do gRPC in Flutter. Using gRPC with Flutter. So we've got some quick start guides. We've got some blog posts. This is using pure Dart. Now that I'm seeing this, I recall this being a little bit of a slog. So perhaps we won't quite get here. But maybe we can at least look at their GitHub repo. What is going on, Medium? Is it just all spam? All spam all the time? So you do have to edit this pub spec thing by adding gRPC. What's the Flutter library thing? Is it like Flutter pub something or other? Yeah, pub.dev. Hopefully there's still an active gRPC project. 20 days ago? Okay. Dart 3 compatible. Yeah, quick start. Swear I was? I was already at the quick start. Examples. How about examples? gRPC web. Hello world. Here's client.dart. So somehow we need to compile the protos, which there seems to be some proto compiler plugin. And why is this like all cut off? Can I play? Oh no, it's terminated. I'm wondering if I don't have the ability to launch a device in as a as a inside of a VM. Maybe there's too much VMing is to host a VM inside of a VM like that, which I think is basically what the Android device manager is doing. So we'll see if Chromium will start up again, and if I can get any feedback on that. Should be able to pull up debug stuff, right? More tools. Okay, so I do get the button does work. I don't know why it wasn't working before, but if I recall correctly, the gRPC code for calling, you have to use a different library to use gRPC web versus Android or iOS. So the underlying code base ends up being different. That's not the end of the world. It just requires some configuring. Maybe what is this? This is the with Flutter thing. Let's see if it mentions gRPC web. I'm pretty sure that with the browser, you need gRPC web and a proxy set up. So maybe I can figure out if I can run Android Studio inside of yeah, can I use Android Studio inside of VM? Thanks. Yeah, so emulators don't generally work inside of VM. What have I clicked on? As long as you want to plug in a physical device, it should work here. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit more complicated than I imagined. I guess I will have to run Android Studio outside of the VM, which I'm not prepared to do right now. And so is there anything useful I can do? I guess I can start at least trying to wire up some of the stuff. Let me see if I can at least compile the protos and maybe verify that I can import the library. So on this quick start, there should be some protoc thing. And we have to do this Dart pub global activate protoc plugin. But I don't know if I'm supposed to do this from Flutter or Dart if I'm doing Flutter. This says still Dart. Okay, so let's try it. I don't think I have to be in any particular directory. Okay. Let's rerun this with no space because I'm pretty sure this current shell is set up to not keep things with a space in history. Okay. And then let's actually compile the protos. We'll do lecture.proto. And the out, why is there a colon here? That's not a directory. Oh, okay. So it's the colon is to tell it what that it's gRPC. What are the other options? Maybe gRPC web is another option. Okay, so at any rate, we will just put them back in proto. Why not? Missing output directives. Is that so? Well, this dash I don't think should be here. Oh, okay, so it's created a proto directory. That's not what I want. Maybe it is what I want. What if I don't know what I want? So let's open up one of these just to see what namespace it put these into. I don't want to have another namespace issue. The package is leafcutter.lecture.v0. Yeah, maybe that's all fine. Maybe it's all fine. but it's kind of ugly because we've got all of those different Dart files. Let's try it again, except we'll put it in proto/Dart. In fact, I kind of want to rename proto to protos, but I don't care enough. Okay, so I'm going to put them in proto. I don't want that. I deleted my Dart directory. All right, so maybe that's good. I don't know. And so we have to add the dependency on gRPC and protobuf. So this blog post from who knows when is using 3.0.2, but we can check the pub.dev or whatever for what the latest is. 3.2.4. Does the quick start have? What is this file called? Flutter gRPC.yaml. Pubspec. Yeah. Okay, well, what is it? What does this pubspec look like? I think this is just the window I just closed. Oh, no, this is the window, right? See if we can find a pubspec here. What does path do here? This is gRPC, and the path is .. // Does it just mean it's using the local gRPC, I guess? And maybe, you never know. You may not want to go entirely with the newest version because sometimes your dependencies will demand an older version. What on earth? There we go. Not the lock file here. Why is it zoomed in? I have no idea. Can I zoom out? What's going on here? Okay, so I guess dependencies go here. If I, oh no, these are dev dependencies. I just want regular old dependencies, I think. So we can ask for 3.0.2 and 2.1.0. Let's see when this thing is from though. 2022. I'm going to bump the dependencies. So the min Dart SDK. I don't know what Dart version I have. Didn't like that. Is there a -- version? 3. Okay. Well, I've got Dart 3. I guess that's fine for now. Is it 3.4.2? 3.2.4. Huh. You gonna suggest something here? No? All right, so let's see what the latest protobuf is. .1.0. And let's see if this will like build. Okay, so change some dependencies. So now we have incompatible constraints. Ugh. Does that mean it worked? So maybe I can't use the newest versions. I'm not sure what any of this stuff is really doing. Why do I have HTTP parser? Where is this archive stuff coming from? Who knows? It's like a brand new project. So go to front end. Is it outdated? Where are these from? Are these from Fixnum, Flutter, Flutterlinks, Google API auth? What if I just do a grep for Fixnum? Is this a Dart thing? PubSpec lock? Dart tool package. Maybe I have to do a Dart update? Is there a Dart outdated? Does Flutter Doctor think I did something wrong? I'm not sure where this dependency is supposed to come from. Is it because I don't know if it's because like IntelliJ depends on it or something. Okay, so this is telling me some stuff about transitive dependencies. That's good. This is the log file. Let's see if it will tell us who depends. So, okay. The fixedum is a transitive dependency, but who depends on it? If I do Flutter find source of transitive dependency, let's see. And maybe the issue is that I'm depending on too old of a version of Flutter. So, or Cupertino icons. This is environment, SDK. So let's see. So Dart 3, I guess, starts at Flutter 3.10, if I'm reading this correctly. And I'm saying that I can have older than 3.10. So maybe that's the source of my issue. Why don't I just say 3.10.0? Will this make things better or worse? Oh, okay, so this is the Dart SDK. That's fine. Isn't there a Flutter SDK? Maybe it's an old version of Cupertino icons. What if we just do 1.06? Okay, so maybe it was Cupertino icons that was unhappy with the dependencies. Or no? Oof. Didn't they try Flutter pub outdated? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it just doesn't matter and everything will be fine. Let's just try running it again. And let's, I guess, look for Flutter lints. What if I just comment these out? Will it give me the same stuff? Yeah. Oh, whatever, man. I'm not sure why it thinks that these are problems, but so just restarting Android Studio, which I think will do nothing. I'll ask ChatGPT, how can I find which dependency in Flutter is pulling in a given transitive dependency? It says Flutter pub deps. Okay, so I get a tree. All right. All right, fine. Okay, so maybe it's Flutter itself. Some of these sure did come in. Why does it see? Why does it say Flutter 0.0.0? Okay, so gRPC is the one pulling in crypto. Ooh, Pointy Castle. That must be a reference to Bouncy Castle and Google APIs. Okay, that makes sense. And Protobuf is the one pulling in fixed them. But why is Oh, is the problem that maybe the problem is that they're not necessarily outdated. It's just that the resolution algorithm isn't pulling in the latest. Is that the problem? So outdated is fine, but what is it, upgrade? Have newer versions incompatible with dependency constraints. So what are they? Collection, material color, utilities, meta. So collections being pulled in by essentially HTTP parser. Is it also being pulled in by something else? It's being pulled in by test API and Flutter test. And also Flutter itself. So I'll ask, why does Flutter pub deps say Flutter is version 0.0? Okay, it doesn't specify the SDK explicitly. All right, so maybe I want to specify the SDK explicitly. Oh, okay. Well, I wish you had told me that, Flutter. Okay, so here's the SDK archive. Well, 3.10.0. I don't know. It doesn't exist. Hmm. Well, maybe it should exist. Try the version command. Oops. So this is 3.3, 3.13.6. How about that? Unknown SDK Flutter at 3.13. I'll ask ChatGPT. I can downgrade. I don't want to downgrade. I have a feeling that it's just not, something's just not set up correctly in some fundamental way. So I'd like to get to the bottom of it. Or maybe the problem is that the command line is using a different SDK. No? What is it, pubcat? Okay. It doesn't exist. Unknown SDK. Well, why won't you tell me what versions are known? Maybe I can configure the project? Project structure. Why is there no SDK? There seems to be no Flutter SDK here. That seems like a problem. Add Android, download JDK. Huh. I don't know. What if I run Flutter Doctor? Flutter Doctor seems happy. Flutter. Oh, you know what? I'm on. That's the Flutter version. I think I need the Flutter SDK. But how do I know what the Flutter SDK version is? Maybe the SDK version is different from the release version. Oh, this is Dart version. Okay. And Flutter version. Let's just click on one of these and see if it, oh, no. See if it tells us what the, that's what the, hmm. If you verify that is installed on your system and you're still encountering unknown SDK, it's possible there might be an issue with Flutter Cache. Maybe it is an issue with Flutter Cache. Certainly taking a long time. Oh, if I clean it? Unknown SDK. Three point 13.6. Maybe GPT is just wrong. First, restart your system. What? Maybe the Dart is constrained, Flutter is not. At the very bottom, there's this thing. Okay, so let's look at the tail of spec lock. So there's this constraint on Dart, but not on Flutter. Also, I upgraded Flutter SDK. Huh. Doesn't seem like this is the desired state of affairs. I don't know if it's because I moved the folder. We try the test Flutter. But if I remove this, here's a GitHub issue. Go to the GitHub page of this package, fork it in your space, then change its SDK requirement in its pubspec YAML Commit it, push it. Now in your project, while importing this package, provide path to your GitHub link to your forked repository. What? It will work perfectly. Please close the issue. Is this a real comment by a Googler? This is like the most insane. This is the most insane advice I've ever seen. This is like it sounds like a super hacky workaround. You have to like vendor the dependency to get a non-unknown Flutter version. If I do Flutter Dr. V, yeah, it keeps saying that it doesn't know where Android is, but I tell it like every day. Flutter Android SDK. I don't know why it doesn't get, maybe it needs a full path. Okay, it seemed to like the full path. I don't know if that solves any of my other problems. That seems to work now. Okay. Upgrades still tell me things are old. Yes, upgrade still tells me things are old. And I think I moved my Flutter version constraint. But maybe it'll work now. But says there's something wrong with my Flutter installation. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe I just need to reinstall Flutter. So I'll work on this offline. If the installed Git version is very old, well, hell is very old. 2.3. Let's see. Was it 2.34? We're at 2.42. Does Wikipedia really have the Git release history? No way. All right, so I have 2.34, which is from 2022. That doesn't seem really old. Sorry, 2021. Is that really old? I'll leave the file .git packed fast in the folder. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. But I guess I can reinstall Flutter, and maybe it doesn't really matter. And at any rate, it seems to run. Can I at least import some protos? This is Android. I don't want Android. And then web, of course, is in a different folder. Okay. So it looks like I'm going to have to figure out a few things here. One is figure out how I want to do development on the Android emulator. It seems like I'm not going to be able to do it in the VM that I've been using for development here, which is not the end of the world. And I might have to reinstall Flutter, but maybe that doesn't matter because the broken Flutter is on the VM. And if I'm not going to be developing on the VM anymore, then, or at least if I'm not developing the Flutter component on the VM, then maybe that's fine. So I'll take care of those things. And then the last thing is I want to figure out how to do the integration tests on Haskell. And so I guess next week is when I'm going to be doing some of that. And then tomorrow I'm going to be looking at the source code to Dart. Yeah, and that's all. Thanks for watching.